Hello, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am Dr. Barrett Matthews, and welcome to another Media Boss Live, guys. Welcome to Media Boss Live. Today, of course, we're doing the 5 days of media strategies you can act on now. And I know the unique thing about these 5 days is that they're not always 5 consecutive days because I'm a businessman, guys, just like you, and I have clients that call me for business. So I got to take the business before I do the education sometimes. So that's what we're doing. But some days there will be 5 consecutive days, but right now we're just starting off, and it's not exactly that. We got today and we got tomorrow this week because I have a class to be in the rest of the week. But I want to make sure that I say welcome to you guys, and I thank you for joining me again. Some of you were here last week. Some of you have some great comments, some great questions, and I appreciate the support. And some of you have shared it, and I thank you for that as well. So we're enjoying this, and I enjoy doing this. It's fun for me to just share some things to help some people. And once again, I want to emphasize for those of you who do want more attention, who need some things done for your business as it pertains to media, contact me. Now you're wondering, like, who is this guy? For some of you out there, you're saying, who is this guy? Well, I am Dr. Barrett Matthews. I can't get my own name right. Barrett Matthews of Media Boss Pro. And what we do primarily is we focus on turning retired CEOs and C-suite execs, and I just expanded a little bit into sports coaches as well, into industry icons. And the reason we focus on those groups is because sometimes, and I know you're saying, well, these CEOs and these executives and these coaches, they've been successful. What about me? Well, they have been successful. And the key word being have been, because what we want to do is make sure that when they retire, their knowledge doesn't have to retire. So what we do is we use media to make it so the world will still remember them and learn from them because they've attained a great deal of knowledge throughout their careers. And we want to make sure that that can carry on. Now, if you are not one of those categories, that doesn't mean we don't serve you. Okay? Doesn't mean we don't serve you, but I want to make sure that we emphasize that we do want to serve that particular group of people because we know that going into a new chapter of your life can be daunting, can cause some anxiety, can make you wonder what's next. And we want to make sure that we can help you in that what's next. We want to provide that what's next and put you in the forefront of what's next so that the people will know that you still have a lot to give, you still have a lot to gain out of life, and you want to make sure that you can do that. And we think media is the best vehicle to do that. So when we say media, I always like to clear this up. As soon as I say that I work in media to people, the first thing people they repeat it back to me. They say, "Oh, social media." I did not say social media. I said media. Now, is social media part of media? Yes, yes. But we've gotten to a point now where when someone says media, we immediately go to social media. And some of you are probably saying, you know what, I did just do that. But when I say media, I do include social media, but I include live streaming as we're doing now. I include podcasting. I include public relations. I include television. I include documentaries, films. I include books. I include magazines. I include blogs. These are all forms of media. You're all forms of media. And the one thing that I have known throughout my years is that everybody, and I mean everybody today, consumes information through one form of media or another, or several. Well, what we do at Media Boss Pros, we want to emphasize to you guys to be everywhere all at once. So that way, wherever they are consuming their media, they can't miss you. So that's what we want to do at Media Boss Pro. So I want to get on to the topic today. And excuse me, I've been running around today, get my morning cup of joe. I want to get to the topic today. And today we're talking about monetizing podcasts. And I know some of you are excited about that because you either have a podcast, you've been wanting to start a podcast, and you're just wondering, I need to make money with this thing. Well, first of all, I think I'm going to maybe lose some people or upset some people when I say this. Is that you ready? I don't think you're ready. You're ready for this? You're sitting down? I'm standing up, but are you sitting down? Okay. Here it comes. And that news is that most, and I mean most podcasters don't make money. Most podcasters don't make money. Now, here's another thing that is kind of disheartening to me, at least, and that's that a lot of people start a podcast because they think it's some cash cow. They've done no research. They just think, oh, wow, I'll start a podcast and make money. And that's really what people think. And can you make money with podcasts? Yes, absolutely you can. I just don't think that starting out, you should go into it with the purpose of that's my way of making money. You should go into it with starting a podcast because you enjoy podcasting and you think you have something to share and you think people need to hear it. And then you can figure out, okay, how can I make money with this? Or you can figure it out to begin with, but still go into it building and teaching and then make your money. But if you go into it thinking that it's going to be your main source of income, a very, very, very small window of people to do that. And I think, see, I'm going to go back to social media again. I always tell people social media is smoke and mirrors, meaning that a lot of us see people on social media and we think that, oh, wow, they got it going on when they could be, living in a one bed studio place and not have a large lavish place that you think they have. Not that there's anything wrong with living in a small place, but it's just the fact that a lot of times people think one thing that is not necessarily true. I'll give you an example. There was a time not long ago where I would probably take 2 trips a year. One trip I'd take to Vegas, and another I would take to the Caribbean, like Jamaica or something. 2 trips in a year. I'd pack my suitcases twice a year for that. I remember I went to one of my high school reunions, and everybody was so excited. Oh, Barrett's here, Barrett's here. And I'm thinking, when did they get excited about me walking into a room? Because I was never the popular guy. Well, someone said, yeah, well, you're always traveling. You're always going places. And we see that. Well, see, the thing is, that's social media. I'd post pictures of me going, trust me, I'm getting to a point. I'd post pictures of me going on these trips, and people would think that I was living some lifestyle of travel. And don't get me wrong, I love traveling. I do. But it was 2 trips a year. 2 trips in a year. And they're thinking I'm traveling all the time. So social media led people to think that. Now, back to the topic. A lot of people who are podcasters, of course, we use social media to promote, to let people know about our podcast. And for some reason, not that people are posting that they are making money, but a lot of people think that podcasting is the way to make money. It should be your career. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they start out their podcast, they don't make a dime, and they quit. Want to know how soon they quit? First month. You hear me? First month, they quit. Now, I don't know about you. I don't know about you. But there aren't too many things that I can start out business wise and say, if I don't make money the first month, I'm quitting. Doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense. But that's what a lot of people do. They do a weekly episode, they do 4 episodes, they quit. And I think part of it is because they were disillusioned. But I think a lot of it is because they never even planned on how to make money. They just thought it was going to come. And I don't know. Some even, I'm being honest. Some of them have nothing to offer, but they just think money's going to come. I don't get it. I don't get it. But let's get to how you can make money from podcasts, how you can monetize it. Now, the traditional way of making money with the podcast is through sponsorship. Now, I want to bring this up to people because I don't want people to think that they can't do it, because you can, but I want to make it clear. Sponsors want you to have a large number of audio downloads on your podcast. A lot of the corporate sponsors I'm talking about, they want you to have a large number, of audio downloads on your podcast. Now, what's a large number, you say, Barrett? Well, a large number, you're going to start at 25,000. You're going to have to move up to 50,000, 100,000, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of downloads. And you're thinking, well, how long does that take? It can take some time, depending on your content, depending on your type of podcast, depending on who you may have on as guest, all types of those things, depending on whether your guests have a tribe and they promote it and so forth. It can take time. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That's I want to make this very clear with you. But I know several people who are making money with podcasts. Several people. But my point to you is that the traditional way is not always working for them. And I think a lot of people, we compare ourselves to Joe Rogan. You know, Joe Rogan has a podcast. For those of you who don't know who Joe Rogan is, he is an actor, comedian, MC for some MMA fighting and so forth. But he's also a podcaster. And he's had some big, I mean, huge names on his podcast. If you get a chance, YouTube it, you'll check him out. But Joe Rogan also has Spotify paying him millions of dollars. I mean, millions of dollars to do his podcast. So do you think Spotify may be helping to get some people to listen, get some downloads? Yeah, of course they are. So don't compare yourself to that because you're not that, okay? What I want you to do is focus on you. Focus on who you are. Focus on your audience and building that up. Now, like I said, there are ways for you to monetize it. And I'm going to get to that. I just want to tell you what most people are taught and what ends up happening when you do what most people do. Make sense? So most people are taught to build up that download list and then get sponsors. It works. It works. Now, I emphasize to you that you should not only do audio, but do video podcasting. Why is that? Because video attracts a different audience. Now, here's something you need to understand when you're talking to sponsors. Sponsors are taught to look at your audio downloads a lot of times. Try to focus them on the video subscriptions, like say YouTube. If you build a large YouTube community, say you got 1,000, 2,000 subscribers, which is good. You could be making money from YouTube then. But that also says something to the sponsor. Here's what I mean. If I have 1 million downloads on audio, say Apple, Spotify, whatever, I don't know who they are. I don't know how to get in touch with them. If I have subscribers on my YouTube channel, I can leave something there for them to click a link, comment with me, and they can now come into my circle. They also, depending on how your YouTube is set up, you can have it set up to where if Johnny subscribes to my podcast on YouTube, I can get a notification. I can reach out to Johnny. So I can actually have a better chance of reaching out to those people and turning them into clients. Why am I saying that? Because you can let your sponsors know I actually have a way to contact these people. As a sponsor, I want to know that you can reach these people. So that's another thing there. So let's get to how you can make money, because I've talked about some traditional ways. I go non-traditional. So let's talk about some non-traditional ways you can make money. One is, this is the low-hanging fruit. Have a product, guys. Have a product or a service that you offer. Like I said, some people would start a podcast and think money's going to come from nowhere. Offer them something. Make sure that you have something that you can offer on your podcast. Now, do you have to offer it every doggone episode? No, you don't. You want to give them more content than you want to have them being offered something. But make sure you do offer something. Offer something they can pay. There are stats that show that people buy a lot from things that they hear on podcasts. So get your podcast out there, offer something, and get people to buy your products and services. Now you're saying like, well, duh. Yeah, believe me, you have no idea how many people come to me and say, well, Barrett, Can I sell on my podcast? You better. That's my answer always. I'm like, you better. Who else is going to market you but you? Get out there and market your podcast, market your products and services on your podcast. It's your show. That's the beauty of it. It's yours. Market your products, market your services on your podcast. It's a great tool for you to do that, and it's a great way for you to get sales. But like I said, make sure you have more content that you're giving them to make them want to buy something from you. I'll repeat that. Make sure your content makes them want to buy something from you. So give, then make an offer. Okay? So that's one a non-traditional way that you can go about it. Now, remember we were talking about sponsors a little while ago. How these corporate sponsors, they look to see how many downloads you have on your podcast. And don't get me wrong, you can have a great deal of downloads in an instant. Depends on who you are and how your podcast is. But a lot of them don't. Most of them don't. And you'd be surprised at how little it takes for you to be in one of the top rankings of podcasters. You would really be surprised at that. Now, another non-traditional way to monetize your podcast is sponsorships, but in a different way. Now, how do I mean that? I'm a business person. I know several people who own businesses. If you're a business person, you probably know several people who own businesses. If not, we need to talk more about how you're meeting and networking and growing your business. But in doing that, why not pick up the phone? Call someone. Say, hey, Renee, I know you have a great business. I'm getting ready to start a podcast. I was wondering, would you be interested in being one of the sponsors for the podcast where we put an ad about your business on there and it can air and it can stay up there forever? And Renee's like, stay up there forever? What do you mean? Like, well, we'll run a podcast. We're running a podcast. We'll run an ad for your business on our podcast. And we can do it either monthly, bi-weekly, however you want to set it up. And by doing that, it's going to stay there. See, unlike radio, if you run it for a month, it goes away after that month. With my podcast, it'll stay there as long as that podcast episode stays up. So it'll stay there forever. So when someone listens to that podcast a year from now, they'll still hear your ad on my podcast. How's that sound to you? And she may say, well, how much is it? Well, now see, this is the part where you get to name your price. Because one, I don't recommend running one ad for someone on your podcast, and for one episode, I should say. I would say put together a package, and you can package it any way you want to. You can say, hey, we'll run 2 commercials on per episode every week for 3 months, or one episode, or a 30-second spot, or a 60-second spot, or we'll give you a read. You can price them differently. But the bottom line is, it gives her exposure for her business on your podcast. And she's paying you for it. So here's what you can do. You build your podcast with ads in it. So you put in slots for your ad. You'll be in your podcast and say, hey, we'll be right back with more after this. And here's a word from our sponsor, whatever. And you come back and say, welcome back to the show. But in the middle there, you put the ad. Or you can do it at the beginning of the show. Or you can do it at the end of the show. Or you can do all three. The beginning, the middle, and the end. Have sponsors there, and you get paid for it. Don't just settle for one sponsor either. Call out 5 or 6 of them. Now let me just throw this out there. This is a hypothetical. Let's say that you said, you know what? I'm going to do a season of podcasts, and I'm going to do 3 months, so 12 episodes, basically 12 episodes, and I'm going to give you a weekly ad on my podcast, and I'm going to charge you, I'm just throwing this out here, $1,000 for a weekly commercial. You may charge more than that, I know, but I'm just saying you're going to charge them $1,000 for 12 ads. So that's 12 weeks of ads on your show. And let's say that you had 6 people that you were running ads for on your podcast at $1,000, and that's going to be for 3 months. So you just made $6,000 for the first 3 months. Now, like I said, you could charge more than that. Of course, that's your call. But my point to you is that you can make money doing that. You can make money doing that by talking to the people that you know who own businesses who would love to have more exposure. You can even throw in a package where you include them to be a guest where you interview them on your podcast. It could be a lot of different things that you can do, but you have to be creative and think differently than everyone else and go non-traditional sometimes. And there are different hosting platforms for your podcast that run what they call dynamic ads, where they will place ads in your podcast automatically for you, and you can get paid on them. Of course, if you increase your downloads, that price can increase where you get paid more. But I'm talking about a way that you can do something on your own to create. I know people that do that. I've helped some people to do that. So you can do that yourself. Now, so we've talked about you selling products. We've talked about you getting sponsors. And the last way I want to talk about, and there are other ways as well, but the last one I want to talk today is about partnership. And you're saying, what's partnership? Well, partnership is a little different than sponsorship. I'll give you an example. Partnership is where I'm going to tell you that I want to showcase you, not just on my podcast, but in my business. And I want you to pay me for that. So, what I'm saying is that I have a podcast. I'm building it. I'm growing it. I can even put together a pitch deck for you to show you how I'm building my podcast. But I want you to be a part of this. So, my company is Media Boss Pro. When I do an event for Media Boss Pro, whether it's virtual, whether it's in person, I'm going to showcase you as my partner so that the people there know that we are working together. When I send out an email campaign, your name is going to be down at the signature along with mine. When I do social media posts, I'm putting your name in my post too. Because my goal, since we're partners, is to get you clients. I want to draw people to you so that people realize that you are someone that they need to talk to. That's what I want to do as a partner. Now, I will do that, say for 3 months, 6 months, whatever. And now, as you can see, that's a lot more value than me running an ad for you, right? A lot more value than me just running an ad. I'm working for you now. My job is to get you clients. So if I'm working to get you clients, then the compensation for that is going to be a little bit more, right? It's going to be a little bit more. So in saying that, you would charge more for that. Now, like I said, I'm not telling you what to charge. I know people who've charged $5,000. I've known people who've charged $20,000. I've known people who also didn't go for the money, but they got product. What does that mean? I know someone who has a podcast, and he talked to a company that makes some food or whatever. They do groceries, I think. And what they did is they said, well, we don't want to actually pay to be a partner, but what we will do is give you a certain amount supply of food for free, of groceries for free. Hey, a product can be just the same as money sometimes. He's going to need groceries, right? So now he doesn't have to pay for them. So it's, you can exchange. I've done partnerships where I've done both. They give me the product and they given me money. So it just depends on what you put out there as the value of what you're offering. And now here's the big part: deliver. Deliver. Everything you said you were going to do it. Just do it. Do it. I'm not saying you have to get them a bunch of clients. Don't promise them that you're going to get them a bunch of clients. Tell them that that's what you're working to do. You want to get them clients. But just do it, guys. Don't sit back and take their money and then not do anything. Make sure you're doing it. But that's another way to monetize your podcast. And a lot of you are thinking, wow, that sounds like a lot. Some of you may be thinking, oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to try that. I'm only telling you this because I know it works. That's the only reason I'm telling you. And another thing you can do is you can take your podcast and do events based on your podcast. So you do a live event based on your podcast, and you get your followers will come, and you can charge admission to it. It doesn't have to be a lot, but you can charge them admission to it. Then at the event, you can sell other products for higher prices and so forth, and make more money. There's so many things you can do to help monetize your podcast. So guys, I'm going to wrap up a little early today. A little early. We usually end in 30 minutes. We're at 25 minutes right now. So we're going to wrap up a little early today. But I want to make sure you understand that you have to think a little differently than everyone else. Think a little differently. And think about 3 ways I've given you as far as monetize, or actually 4 ways. You can actually go ahead and get sponsors, local sponsors that you may know. You can sell products and services that you know, that you have. You can actually get partnerships. And like I said, you can do events based on your podcast. These are just a few ways that you can monetize your podcast. So those of you who are just joining us late, you can listen to the whole block. It'll be up on social media in a minute. But I want you guys to really make sure that you're get some money from your podcast if you're going to do it long term. Now, if those of you out there who don't have a podcast and you're looking to do so, go to MediaBossPro.com, MediaBossPro.com, schedule a time with me, and let's talk about that. Let's figure out how we can get you started. That's one of the things that we do for people. Also, if you have a podcast and you're looking for someone to maybe take over production for you, once again, go to MediaBossPro.com, schedule a time with me, and we can talk about that. Also, if you are a retired CEO and you're wondering what's next, or you're a current C-suite executive and you're wondering what's next once I leave here, let's start getting your name on the map right now. If you are a sports coach who has probably left the career or left the locker room and you're looking for your next venture because you're bored, contact us. Let us turn you into an industry icon, someone that everyone knows. So contact us at MediaBossPro.com. I would love to talk to all of you. I'm looking forward to it. And like I always say before we leave here, guys, understand, you're something special because you're God's vessel. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.